and welcome to Alzheimer Speaks Radio. I'm your host, Lori LeBay, and I'm so excited that you're joining us today. We are going to have a fascinating conversation as usual as we learn from people all around the world at all ages and stages of life. Stay tuned as we shift our dementia care from crisis to comfort.
Here we go. What you think about, you will bring about.
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to Alzheimer Speaks in our open mic. We're doing these monthly now, so if you weren't able to make this one, maybe you can make our next one. We want to give people an opportunity at all ages and stages, and all people around the world an opportunity to speak up and speak out. Let us know about your business service tool that you have. Let us know what it's like to live with dementia, the good, the bad, and the ugly, resources you've found, trials that are out there, movies and music that's been made. Everything is welcome here. The one rule I have is just that we have a respectful conversation. So if you can keep that in mind, you're welcome, because I truly believe we cannot make sustainable change if we're not inclusive of all voices all around, and we can learn so much from one another. So thank you for all who are listening today. People will just kind of pop in and out typically during this show. And so right now we have Micheal Ellenbogen with us, and we have Nikki Jardin with Mirador magazine. And I'll start out, I'll just introduce myself, how I got into this space, because we're always getting new listeners. I'm Lori LeBay, and my mom lived with dementia for 30 years. And yes, you heard me right. It was 30 years. And I know many people rolling up on that 15, 20 years and even more. So I think that we're going to see this be much more common than what it was when my mom was living with dementia. But that's what drove me into this space, was really to raise everyone's voice and get people connected, because I just did not feel as a family that we were being served as well as we could be. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Micheal, you want to tell yours?
Sure. Thank you, Lori. My name is Micheal Ellenbogen, and I am living with dementia for a long time. And I'm a dementia advocate and connector, and just been working hard to bring change to the arena.
Wonderful. Thank you, Micheal. Nikki, you want to go ahead and give yourself an introduction there too, and let people know about what you're up to?
Sure. My name is Nikki Jardin. I'm the publisher and co-founder of Mirador magazine. We're a dementia-friendly and non-neurotypical friendly magazine. And we have 12 issues out right now, 13 if you count our anthology. We're a 32-page online and print publication with a variety of stories and activities included.
Wonderful. Well, thanks for joining us today. Micheal, I'm going to start with you. You and I go way back. We have had many conversations on many platforms. What would you like to talk about today? Anything in particular? I know you sent me an article this morning, which I honestly have not had a chance to look at, that was about our failing hospital systems when it comes to cognitive issues, which I hear that as a hot topic all the time in support groups.
Absolutely. As you know me, Lori, I've been working at this for probably 15 years now, trying to do all kinds of things to change the stigma and to figure out all the different issues that need change in reference to, dementia and people who are dealing with cognitive issues. And I've been able to accomplish most of the things that I've set my heart out to do. But there's one that's been on the back burner for probably, I'd say now, about 15 years. And it all started with me originally having an issue in the hospital system. And after having that issue, I spoke to other people who were living with dementia, and they expressed the same issues, and caregivers. And I tried to address this probably about 12, 13 years ago. And I got to tell you, I was very shocked because I had reached out to people like the Joint Commission and thought that once they heard my story, they would be real out wanting to bring change to our hospital system. But I got to tell you, I was very disappointed because people just didn't seem to be interested in wanting to bring change. And I formed a committee, I guess, about a year ago, and I'm trying to bring change to the hospital system. And everybody I spoke to, doctors, head of CMS and all, and they all told me, Mike, what you're working on is really important, but they're not sure I'm going to be able to accomplish it. They said, while it's something that has to happen, they feel that there's a cost factor and time that the upper management of hospitals just don't want to pay for. And I'm a believer of change. And I think if the change is right, then people are going to go ahead and do this. So I started out by reaching out to the Matthews Journal of Neurology, and I wanted to put this out in writing into a journal, and I figured I'd start there and hopefully rely on the public to help make awareness of this. And my goal is, I just put something out on LinkedIn a couple hours ago that's going to tell people where to go to make recommendations in reference to the article and what I'm asking for. And I'm hoping it's going to gain some traction. There's places that we need to reach out to, places like ACHC, again, the Joint Commission, IHI.org. There's many different groups out there that can affect changes in the hospital system. And my goal is to try to reach out to those people and let them know that we need to do something for people who are living with cognitive issues in the hospital system, and have some sort of certification program. And again, I'm not saying this is going to be mandatory. I'm a firm believer that if you put something out there and it's good, people are going to want to go out there and implement it, just like they've done for other certification programs. It's basically going to say, hey, there's multiple hospitals in my area. I want to become the best in supporting people with cognitive function. So once you put the program out there, I assume just like all the other certification programs that were good out there, hospitals want to jump on them right away. And I know many hospitals who would love to see this. What's really sad about this, they actually have a certification program for assisted living centers that they have for people who are living with dementia there. But they don't have one for hospitals. Well, maybe somebody needs to tell them that those same people who are in assisted living centers end up in those hospitals. And they also need, treatment and special help negotiating while they're in that hospital. And that's the problem. As you know already, 50% of the people who have some form of dementia don't even know they have it. So when these people end up in the hospital system, they probably need some extra little help and guidance, especially if there's something really important for them when they leave that they need to follow. Well, if they have dementia, they sure ain't going to remember what you tell them when they go home. I mean, my God, I can't remember what you told me 10 minutes ago. And, if we want successful things to happen to these people, then they're going to need some additional guidance. And, this will go a long way because it's going to save the hospitals money in the long run, because today they get penalized if the people come back into the hospital system within 30 days. There's also advantages that the people will also most likely benefit from something that they didn't even know they have, for those 50% that they're going to be pointing something out to them that might be able to even be resolved. Not everything leads to dementia and being progressive. So it could be that they're going to be doing these people something really great by telling them, hey, we're not sure, but you might have an issue that you might want to check out once you leave here. And that's it. It's just making awareness and giving the people a little extra help while they're in that hospital. Like for me, I was in the hospital. I didn't even know how to order my food, use the phone or anything. They expect you to be able to do all these things when you're in there. Well, sadly, not everybody with cognitive issues can do that. So I'm hoping this will bring the necessarily change. Like I said, when I started here, I tried to start this 12, 15 years ago. I was unsuccessful. With everything that's finally happening now, I think now is the right time. We did not have a way to slow this down in the past, dementia. We did not have medical procedures on teaching people about dementia. As of today, schools that doctors come out of, they still don't have the books up to date to teach them on what's out there that came out in the last 2-3 years. So this is fantastic because this is a way that we're going to be able to train these people who want to learn. I mean, I can tell you the doctors want to know. The nurses want to know. The staff wants to know. But as I say, it does come at a cost. And we need to get the people in charge of these hospitals to be willing to pick up the cost, just like they have for many other things in the past.
Well, there's, and I just learned about this and I know enough to be dangerous. So I will admit that up front. But CMS has a program called the Dementia Guide, where payers like hospitals and clinics are now going to get money to support people with dementia. And Nikki, this would be good for your program too. And my understanding is the door has been closed for those payers to sign up. And the money that they're given is supposed to help them tap into community support. And the program's supposed to roll out in July. I don't know how that's going to happen because none of us know how to tap into that. CMS doesn't have something on their website where, individuals like myself that might have support services and Nikki and so many others out there to be able to sign up, to get connected to these payers. What I've been told is that we have to call around, figure out who's on the program, figure out who's in charge of the program, and then try to get an appointment with the program and then pitch the program. I don't see how any of that's going to happen by July. And I'm skeptical. And what I'm worried about is that, and I'll be very honest, that those funds are not going to be used in the way they were intended, and hospitals will keep them. And they will continue to do what they do on a medical academic model and not a social engagement model that many times is needed. So, and let me know if I'm wrong here, Michael, but I know some of the issues can come into place, like Gary LeBlanc started the Purple Angel Wristband program, like put an identifier on. So when someone is asking, do you have any allergies? They need to look a little deeper than just at the person with dementia asking that question. I remember even my ex-husband being in the hospital and that he was having heart problems and he doesn't have any cognition problems. But the doctor said, well, have you had any salt lately? And he's like, no. And I'm like, yes, you have, because your sister just told me the last 3 nights you've been eating Chinese food. It's loaded. He's like, well, I didn't have a salt shaker. And it's like, you don't need a salt shaker. It's still the sodium in the food. So those things happen with many different people. Coming, having a companion, like you said, to use the phone, to reduce the anxiety, to help with the TV and the noise and maybe the beeping things that are going on, or during the night, a lot of people get up and they rip out, their needles and things like that because they don't know where they are. And so some hospitals do have volunteers that'll come in and do that. But, they should have paid trained staff, to do some of those things. And again, I know staff is short. Coming out of anesthesia can really throw somebody for a loop. So someone who appears cognitive, and all set and ready to go, that can really throw them for a loop. And like you said, Michael, 50% of these people aren't diagnosed, and yet that really isn't discussed in terms of we're going to do a surgery, and as this is a risk that might happen. It might inflame things and they might not come back to where they were. The directions, that drives me crazy. It's like, okay, we're going to give you your discharge information, and we want you to call back, or we want you to do another appointment or whatever. They assume so often, because it's easier, that everybody has someone that's caring for them in their house. Well, a lot of people live alone, or their spouse isn't active in their care. I mean, we've got situations like that out there too. But asking the right questions is absolutely critical. And so I don't know if this CMS program could assist in some of those things, because it's all about quality of life and keeping people safe and engaged, is my understanding. And I think there's a lot of things in the community that could be tapped into and contracted with, versus hospitals starting from scratch. But again, I think there needs to be training, just like you said, like with assisted livings and memory care. And we need to get into those colleges and those schools earlier, so that the doctors and the nurses and all of the staff have some hope and know how to connect with people and engage with people on a different level. And I think what they learn through dementia will be applicable really in all of their work, because it's about, to me, so much of it is about reading nonverbal communications as well, and not just projecting everything as a behavior and get a pill, to restrain somebody. There's so much more that we can do to make this a healthy, comfortable journey, and not have those repeat hospitalizations to top off. Nikki, I saw you kind of shaking your head. Have you had any experience with this?
I absolutely haven't, Michael. I'm so glad you're bringing this up. This is such a touch point conversation for me. So my aunt was diagnosed with young onset, and I was a family care partner for her 7 years. And about 5 years in, so she was in, fairly advanced stages, she fell and broke her hip and wound up in the hospital for surgery. And what a nightmare that was. And it was awful. It was awful for her primarily. And mainly because the staff, there was no way that they had, coming out of surgery with an advanced dementia, with a broken hip and a broken wrist at that point. And basically, she had no idea why she was there. She didn't know that she had broken any limbs, so she kept trying to get up. So basically, all they had to do was, drug her with Haldol and keep her sedated, and was terrible, so that she couldn't participate in any of her training or any of her, recovery methods. The care facility where she was living at the time could not bring her back home because there was nobody to watch her, to make sure that she couldn't get out of bed. So she was in this horrible limbo of staying in a surgical ward where she was. I mean, I was with her this was also during COVID. So I was with her during, as long as they would allow me to be, but there wasn't even really much that I could do other than try to advocate to get her back home into her long-term care, which finally myself and the staff nurse at her residential care they were finally able to work something out, bringing in a hospice team. And it's like, well, what can we do to get her home? She can't just stay here drugged up. Meanwhile, her recovery is going nowhere. They would try to get her up to walk her, but she was in advanced dementia. It was horrible. There wasn't anybody really trained, and they didn't have it. She was in the surgical ward. They've got 9 other, patients that they're trying to deal with in a recovery situation. It's not anybody's fault. And at the same time, where is the awareness? This is not a new disease. This is not a new issue. I was talking to nurses and admin staff. This happens all the time because we have people with dementias that wind up in surgeries or in the hospital, and there's no trained staff. There's no trained liaison, and family members can only do so much. They're not there 24/7. They're not going to be allowed to be there often 24/7. That is so. I'm with you, Michael. I've heard this over and over and over again from family care partners, from professionals, from hospice organizations. This is a huge issue that really needs to be dealt with. It's frustrating for the staff because they want to be able to help patients, and there's only so much they can do. So anyway, I could go on and on about this because it makes me really angry, but I won't. But I would love to see some change at the educational level, but as Michael had pointed out, most importantly, at the admin level, because this is where everything comes from. So I know that staffing shortages are a thing, and I know that training is a thing for lots of different conditions. But as you also both mentioned, this isn't just something that can be used, for people experiencing a dementia diagnosis. It's coming out of brain trauma surgery. It's an autism issue. It is a spectrum issue. There are lots of other cognitive and non-neurotypical issues around the hospital system that really needs some deep change.
Well, I so agree. And, one of the things that a lot of families don't know when they're struggling like this is to tap in at the hospital to the patient advocate. They don't even know that that's that person. And boy, you go down there and complain, they don't want to get sued. They jump into the hot pit really quick and try to get things resolved.
I mean, that's what ended up happening with me with Rebecca is like, it became, such a forceful issue that, because she was going on 10 days there. It's like, she's got to get out of here. Like, this is not working for anybody. But yeah, you're right. And nobody, and, we're kind of trained in, it's the doctors. They know what they're doing,
Yeah, it is very, very interesting. And I think there's some great solutions out there. But again, you have to get buy-in at all levels. And, it seems like, and tell me if you don't agree with this, but to me, it seems like the way we get things done is to get the public on the move and on the march these days. It's not coming from administration picking up that, oh, there's a problem we need to address. It seems like it's swelling up from the bottom. Same with even, I hear people complaining all the time. Why don't our doctors know about these things? I'm bringing stuff I learn at my support group to them. I'm teaching them, and thank God they are. But again, there's got to be time in the day for them to go to some classes and for this to be made a priority, and so that we don't get so many misdiagnoses or the follow-up. I love the follow-ups too, that's like, well, they'll call or they'll text, and it's like, well, a person with dementia might say, you might be, as a family member, calling them to say, I've got your pills on the counter, it's time to take them. And they're like, okay, yep, I'll do that, and then the person comes home and go, you told me you took your pills. They're still sitting on the counter, and they start kind of fighting. And the hospitals are doing the same thing, and the clinics are doing the same thing. And then they get mad because an appointment was missed. Well, find out who needs to know, who can really track that and assure that. And maybe it is that person that's diagnosed, but maybe it's not. Maybe you can't leave a message and expect that to be interpreted, or talk to somebody on the phone. Maybe it needs to be a different format or come in a different way. And I don't think those questions are being asked. It's just, well, everyone gets text, everyone knows how to do this. Well, no, they don't. And they might be able to receive it, but that does not mean it's registered to move forward. And there's a very big difference in that, but I don't think that's being analyzed. Michael, what are your thoughts on what Nikki and I have been jabbering about?
Well, I have to tell you, hearing Nikki is nothing different. Everybody has the same story. The sad part is I never, ever hear a good story, which is really upsetting. You would think at least once in a while you hear, oh, they took care of my mother really well. You never hear that. It never happens. So that's why I know that this is so critical. And just to give you a little more insight into my situation, my wife was a medical person and a manager in the hospital that I was in. So she was the RN and the manager there, and she made all the staff aware of my situations. And I was kind of treated like royalty in the hospital. But when it came to my dementia, they were still clueless, and they kept still making mistake after mistake after mistake. So you can imagine, I'm being treated so great, and it was terrible. And my wife was so frustrated. I mean, they would come and ask me questions. Well, when did you have your last bowel movement? Or when did you have? I'm like, I have no clue. Give me a pencil. I'll write this stuff down for me. Next day, when did you have it? I said, did you get it yet? I can't remember this. You know what? It's really amazing. It really is. But anyway, Lori, getting back to what you started talking about originally with the CMS issue, I actually covered a little bit of that in the article that I wrote. It is even more important today because of this CMS issue that we do this. Because what CMS is about to do, and this is a 10-year trial, by the way, that they're going to be doing, is they're going to try to allow people to be in their home much longer so they don't have to go into these nursing homes, and they're going to be treated at home. And there's certain qualifications you have to meet for that. I forgot what they all are now, but I think it's a fantastic thing. It's to me, the beginning of saving money for the hospitals, saving money for a lot of things, because it's a lot cheaper to live within your home, and people are going to be much happier in their home. So it's more important than ever that we have this system in place, because now these people are going to be going from the home to the hospital, and now they need to really have even more care. So I think this is going to work in much better hand in hand with what they're trying to accomplish. So I commend CMS for what they're trying to do. I mean, this is something people have been complaining about for years and years and years. You know, it's like the solution is today that they can't help you out money-wise if you want to stay in your home. You got to go into an assisted living or something like that, and then they'll pay you $12,000, $13,000 a month. I mean, how stupid is that? You can probably pay somebody about $3,000, $4,000 and still be in their home, and they might need little care or just a couple extra, help. So I think it's going to save everybody money all the way around. I think by the time they figure how this is going to give them such a great payback, I can't imagine 10 years from now that they're not going to say, wow, this is the way to go, because they're going to save a lot of money. Not only save a lot of money, today you have to wait for a bed, I don't know how long, to get into one of these places. Well, if most people choose to stay home, they're going to have plenty of beds available. So I think it's going to be a win-win for everybody.
Well, especially with the staff shortage, that's out there, and the quality, and not in all places, but in a lot of places are really, really struggling. I know on Conscious Caregiving with L&L, we are going to be recording a show on staff issues and resolutions, because that's massive, and all of healthcare is dealing with that. I would love if offline, if you wouldn't mind sharing with me your CMS contact, because I actually want to do a show with somebody from CMS that actually knows this program, because every person I talk to doesn't know about it. And I found out about it by somebody coming on this show talking about it. So I've been asking everybody, and everybody I talk to goes, never heard about it, never heard about it. And it's like, it's kind of like, it reminds me of the Alzheimer's, Plan Act, with the government, that's been going on for years and years, but nobody knows, unless you're in the inner circle, that is even happening. And, they've got to do a better job connecting to people, instead of just assuming there's a handful of people who, are, and I'll blame Google, that are doing the Google Play game that come to the top of the crop just because they have the money and the budgets. There's a lot of smaller businesses that offer a lot of great services, that can help this situation, that aren't even noticed or recognized because it's never been done this way. It's kind of the good old boys. We've always done it this way, type process. So I'm excited about this program too. I just want to learn more to try to help spread the word of it so we can get more people engaged and more people cared for. Anything else that you wanted to add on this topic, Michael?
No, the only thing I would encourage, and again, we need to spread the word around. We need people to send emails to these places that I've put on there. And, I think with getting a bombardment of emails and all to those places, that's what's going to drive it. That's what's going to drive change. Sadly to say, I've spoken with people, at I was going to say the name, but I don't want to get them in trouble. At some foundation who was behind a lot of this, and they all agree, but they just don't think it's possible. And you know me, I don't give up. I mean, like I said, I've been working on this a long damn time, and I just think everything's slowly coming together. We have the tools out there. We just now need to put the tools in our hands. There was many excuses and many reasons why before it didn't matter. Before we didn't have drugs to slow down things, so it wasn't so important. But we now have things. So, and especially, in fact, I just spoke to somebody the other day who's a teacher teaching neurology. They said they haven't even caught up with things that came out 5 years ago. They're not even in the textbooks yet. So the people coming out today is no different than they were 10 years ago. So that's why it's really important that we do this. We have this stuff today. There's so much that has been worked on and created by so many good people out there. So let's get it in the hands of the right people and make everybody's lives better. We deserve better. We must demand better.
Oh, I agree. And again, I'll put this link in the show notes, but it's too long to really state. But if you go to Matthew's Open Access Journal and just put in the title of the article, "The Failing Hospital System," when it comes to cognitive issues, I think it'll pop right up, or probably even just the title on Google will get you where you want to go on that. But and I did notice too, like Teepa Snow has commented on here. I see that Joe Gogler, who's with the University of Minnesota here in Minnesota, has responded to, and he agreed the underdiagnosed and the non-disclosure of Alzheimer's disease and other dementias is a big problem, and rewarding hospitals who do a good job identifying cognitive disorders that impact care is a good first step, he said. But yeah, you've got some nice comments going, and we can just people can build on that, as well as reaching out to those organizations that you mentioned as well. So thank you for bringing this to our attention and joining us today on Open Mic, Michael. This was a really important conversation. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and it was a pleasure, and have a wonderful day.
Okay, we'll do that. Nikki, let's talk a little bit more about what you're up to and what you'd like to cover.
That is such an incredible conversation. Like that's really that was really important and impactful, and appreciated Michael coming in and chatting about it. So I guess one of the things that we've been talking about recently, myself and I talk a lot with Lori Clear from Nana's Books, and more recently with Luke Gilligan from Resense, who does the Resense Register, is this importance of adaptive text, accessible reading materials. And this is sort of what we do here at Mirador. And this is a topic that continues to come up in the same sort of vein of the necessity for different types of materials when it comes to giving people a high quality of engagement, people that are living with dementia and other cognitive disorders and other non-neurotypical brains. And so that's just the work that we've been doing here on the magazine, and we've been really having we just published our 12th issue, and so we're pretty happy about that, and getting some feedback and learning and growing, and it's a wonderful thing to get to work on. We're having a lot of fun doing it.
Can you tell our audience what made you decide to step into this space? Because really, there's not magazines out there, and
There aren't.
even most books aren't adapted to this style of learning and being able to participate. So what pushed you in this direction?
So I had mentioned my aunt in the earlier conversation, and one of the things that I noticed when I was spending a lot of time with Rebecca, and she was young, she was 62, and still very vibrant and very active. And one of the things that she really loved to do was to read. And one of the things that I noticed pretty early on was that she sort of just stopped reading. Some of it was generalized, like she would have me pick items from a menu for her. And some of it was like she'd carry magazines around, and she would tell me that she had sort of forgotten her glasses, and didn't really, would I read something to her? Would I read the table of content, whatever it was? And for one thing, she didn't need glasses, and so that was kind of funny to me. But the other thing was that I was just noticing, like, there was a element of her sort of slipping away from something that she really enjoyed doing. And so I had gone to as I was kind of learning about Rebecca's disease, I found Teepa Snow and her videos, and I'd gone down to see a seminar of hers. This is pre-COVID, back in 2018, I think, 2017 maybe. And she talks a lot about visual acuity and how it changes as the brain changes with dementia. And there's something about that conversation that kind of clued me into it. Maybe it wasn't just Rebecca's diagnosis. Maybe there was something actually visually going on, that she wasn't able to read books and magazines like she normally could. And so I went online to find, she particularly liked magazines like me. So I went online and try to find dementia-friendly periodicals or magazines. And like you said, I was so surprised that there was nothing out there in that particular vein. There was a woman doing some chapter books. I think she had like 3 of them out, but that wasn't really Rebecca's thing. They were nicely done. But she was, we were looking for more of a, she liked The Week and People and New Yorker and Nat Geo. She liked lots of variety in her magazines. And so that was sort of the impetus of the start of this. I had a freelance writing background. I'd worked as a managing editor on a local niche publication. And so I had that it was a pretty natural fit to try to come up with a periodical that could be reader friendly, but also engaging, and also not look like it was something designed for, for young people or children. I wanted it to have the feel of an adult magazine, as well as the content that that honored the education and experience of this particular audience.
Yeah, you guys have done such a great job with the creation and the style, because it just feels like a classy magazine. When you pick it up, the covers are always bright and pull you in. The print is larger, and yet it's not over exaggerated where you go, what is this? And it's just a very pleasant and diversified magazine. You've got the puzzles and the word scramble, type things in there. You've got great storylines, beautiful photography, and it's really cool. Now, is there a difference between the online and the physical magazine in terms of what somebody gets with either of those packages?
Sure. So, and thank you for saying that. That's such nice things about the magazine. I appreciate that. And I do want to shout out Tave Fashe, who is our art director and my co-founder, and Ty Juncker, who's our graphic designer, who makes this magazine look as beautiful. And as well laid out as it is. They've done such a nice job, and we've kind of learned over the last 3 years, really how to make each page as accessible as possible. And we worked on layout and worked on how to make those pages as easy to read. But the look of it goes to that's all them. So the online aspect of our magazine, it is the same magazine. The difference is that each page is audio narrated, and so you can, hit play on a page and hear it read to you if you like. And we also go in there and we add in, you can click on links. So if there's a story about squirrels, or if there's a story about model ships or whatever, you can click on links and learn more about them, or perhaps see a video. And that's something that care partners can do. If they've got the magazine on a tablet, they can show it to their loved ones. Sometimes people also like the online version because maybe they're buying the magazine for a loved one that lives out of state or in another city, and so they can see what their person is reading, and they can communicate that way. It's like, oh, I see this magazine is about this one's about bicycles. Did you see the story on page 10 or whatever? Or let's read it together on the phone or on FaceTime. So that's another element of how that can be used.
Well, that's cool. I'm just going to share my screen really quick and just take people to your website just so they
Oh,
can
thanks.
kind of get a visual for that. So, I mean, you just look at the variety of just the magazine covers on here. They just pull you in. They're just done so well, and you've got great testimonials down here that people can find in terms of how that is helping, which is fantastic. You won the National Mature Media Awards. That's congratulations on that back in 2023.
Thank you. Yeah.
And then the gals from the Adaptive Equipment Corner, it looks like you've got a video testimonial from them, and these guys are wonderful. I mean, they know their stuff.
They really do, and they've been very kind. That's a nice long review that they did of our magazine, and their stuff is terrific. They do such a nice job of really giving people some great information regarding adaptive equipment. They think they're fantastic.
Yep. So that would be always interesting. And then you have different valued resources in here as well. I'm going to go up to your activities page, and that'll give people a kind of a feel of what you were talking about, from crosswords and word search and matching games and, coloring sheets. Oh, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say those are, yeah, those are from our first issue, it looks like, and people can download those for free and kind of get a sense of our style and kind of the template that we use. And yeah, we try to make a nice variety. People have often referred to our magazine as highlights for adults, which is funny to me, and it's a nice honorarium because I loved highlights as a kid, and but we also want to talk about the fact that while some things are made simplified, we do try to keep them fun and adult in nature.
Yep. Well, exactly. And so many people like the spot the difference picture
They do.
too that you've got in here. So that's really cool. Now, you've got it in Spanish then too, so that's neat.
We've got 5 issues right now that are translated into Spanish, and we offer those online for free. We don't have them in print yet. We would love to change that. We do get asked. I just got an email recently, like, do you have these available in print in Spanish? And boy, would we love to do that. So we're looking for any sort of partner resource to help us with that. Print magazines. We need to have a pretty large, not massive community, but we need to have, enough interest in order to print them. But we do offer them online, translated by a native Spanish speaker. And we're going to work on getting the rest of those issues done over the next few months.
Boy, you'd think there'd be a grant out there for that. I mean, because
Right? I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
with that, and then I'm just going to go to your store here too, so people can kind of see how this works. Do you want to explain this? You've got kind of different pricing on things.
Yeah, so we're offering right now, we do singles, we sell singles, and then we do sets. At the moment, we're not doing a subscription model. We got out of that a few months ago. There's a few reasons for that. One is that our community tends to move around a lot. And the other is that people were just sort of asking, like, can we just get a few of these all at once? It made it easier for, organizations and for people at home. They didn't necessarily, we're a quarterly, and so they didn't necessarily want to wait the 90 days for issues to come out. They just kind of wanted a set of them. And now that we have a block of 12, that is easier for us to do. So you can buy a single issue if you like, or you can buy a set of 3, or a set of 5, or a set of 10. And pretty soon, because now we have 12, we'll get those volumes moved up so you can buy, the entire library of 12 issues. I do want to point out that we also have what we're calling the anthology right now, which is we had a reader write to us and say, my dad really loves the stories, but it stops him when he gets to the puzzles. He doesn't care for them. Would you be interested in doing an issue that doesn't have any puzzles or games in it? It's like, sure. Like, that's actually something Tave and I had talked about before. And so having that, that suggestion, that sort of helped us go, okay, let's put this one together. So we pulled some of our favorite stories from the last, 10 issues and put that anthology together. And I do want to shout out that was sponsored by our dear friends at Paths Law Firm. They're a Midwest Kansas City elder law firm, and they helped us with that issue. And so that is also kind of one of our more popular issues right now. People just kind of wanting to see stories, not necessarily the activities. So if you go on our website, you can flip through volume 1 online, and then you can kind of click each issue too, and see what it's all about. And you can also we're also happy to, I love chatting with people, so I get emails all the time like, hey, do you think this would work for my dad? Or my mom is here in this stage, or XYZ, and I'm always happy to have that conversation with people.
Oh, there's Peter.
There's Peter. Yeah, I love Peter Berry so much. If your audience doesn't know Peter, I know that you do, and yeah, he's one of my favorite folks. I'm actually going to be going to England in June to go do an event with him.
Oh, very fun. Very.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that is cool. Well, I love how you are open to listening to people, in terms of what it is they're looking for. And I think it's really cool that you've got these packages, because you're right, especially, people with dementia. I mean, you can use these things over and over and over again, but you still want the variety, as well. It just makes it more interesting, I think, for the person living with dementia and their care partners as well. And these are things I think the care partners pick up and read just as much, to themselves, because you've done a really nice job with them. They're intriguing and things. So I really appreciate you taking the time to share with us today.
Oh no, I really appreciate, like, having me on and chatting a little bit about it. And yeah, it is nice to have um for folks to be able to kind of have a variety of things to choose from. This is something that Lorette and I talk a lot, this sort of being able to self-select. If we're a magazine reader, we don't just read one magazine, and we don't just have a single and that's it, we're done. We like to see what the next one is and the next one, and to have a variety of reading materials available. And that is something that we are really working hard on bringing more to the forefront of necessity for this sort of activity. And there's lots of really great activities out there, some physical activities, and new, like electronics, and handheld and textures, all kinds of super cool stuff coming on the market. And so this is one of those that we'd like to see people kind of slide in as sort of an analog, lo-fi, old school, no batteries required product for people, and something that people are really familiar with. So Yeah.
Well, and it's simple. You don't have to worry about the internet going out. It's something that you can tactically feel and hold and flip the page. And so many people, they like that physical touch, and marker and kind of reminder that it's there versus a Kindle.
Yeah, like having something that's theirs, and we hear that it's like people like that is mine, that is my thing, and they don't have to, it's something they can keep in their nightstand or in their room, and it's like it's something for them.
Exactly. Well, you want to tell people the URL for your website, and then we'll put this in the show notes as well, of course.
Thanks, Lori. So sure, people can go online to Mirador magazine, and that's Mirador, miradormagazine.com. You can also email me, Nikki, which is Nikki, at miradormagazine.com, and I'm happy to chat with anybody at any time about what we're doing or how I can help your community or your family.
Yeah, and if you have a Spanish community, get a hold of her on this.
Yes, please do, because that, I mean, that is it's a huge thing for us, and something we're really going to work on hard on in 2024, and just to sort of get that community going, and not just, love to see more languages down the line too, but we're really seeing, especially a lot of libraries coming on board and having dementia friendly reading materials within libraries. So, we also kind of, it's nice to have again a variety, so not just Mirador, but Ann Albert's fantastic, Reminisce line of books, or Luke's newspaper, or Lori's, beautiful, gorgeous Nana's books too. So, there is a space for this sort of thing, and I think it's important.
There's space and there's a huge, huge need for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
So, well, thank you for taking the time to be with us.
yeah.
Gosh, it's a good thing no one else called in because we like took up the time.
Yeah, we sure did. Chitter chatter.
Great conversation. So again, I appreciate you being with us. And what I always say to our audience is be a giver of hope. Like, click, and share this episode because there's people that need to hear, about the hospitals failing us and how they can get their comments heard, and how people can tap into this wonderful resource for this Mirador magazine that can help people with cognitive issues and so many other just a general senior will appreciate the larger print and the boldness and the games and stuff that you have in there as well. So check them out. That's what they're there for. And Nikki's more than open to talking with you. So in wrapping up, I will just say, I'll give a plug for Alzheimer's Speaks too. We have a section of free educational resources that we've been curating since 2009. There's a variety of things that you can participate in, like this radio show, or if you're living with dementia, you can also participate in our Dementia in the Arts program or our dementia chats. There's tools. You can access Dementia Map, which you guys are part of as well.
Yes, yes.
Over 150 different categories that people can search. And, everything is just growing and blossoming. We have to let people know these connections are there and these services are available. And I think the best way to do that is by sharing it with people that you know. Help us spread the word. Just maybe you'll pop on with us next month.
Well, thank you so much, Lori.
Have a wonderful week. Bye now.
Well, hi, I'm Lori LeBay, and I wanted to tell you about Alzheimer's Speaks, which is another great podcast. You see, my own mother lived with dementia for 30 years, and I felt lost. Did you know every 3 seconds someone in the world is being diagnosed with dementia? Odds are it's going to hit your families too. We want to help you connect to services, products, tools, research, and stories so you can be prepared. Please subscribe to Alzheimer's Speaks on your favorite podcast platform.